Before we dive into the cold, murky waters where men worked in silence and darkness to keep supply lines alive, hit that subscribe button. You're about to witness a side of World War II that never made the newsreels, the story of port clearance divers who cleared impossible paths under impossible deadlines. Stay with us, and you'll never look at logistics the same way again. The convoy of trucks sits idle at the edge of the warehouse district, engines cold, drivers smoking nervously in the pre-dawn darkness. 16 Bedford QLs, loaded with ammunition crates and medical supplies, bound for the front lines 200 miles north. The schedule says they roll at 0600. It's 0530 now, and the tide is dropping fast. Between the deep water pier and the warehouse loading dock lies 200 yards of harbor bottom that should be clear. That needs to be clear, but isn't. 3 weeks ago, a Luftwaffe raid dropped strings of anti-personnel mines across the approach channel. Last week, a merchant vessel took shrapnel to her hull and sank bow first into the shallows, spilling cargo nets and twisted cable across the seabed. Yesterday, reconnaissance reported possible sabotage swimmers operating in the harbor after dark. The trucks cannot move until the path is verified clear. The ships cannot offload until the trucks can move. The offensive cannot proceed without the supplies. Everything hangs on what happens in the next 30 minutes, underwater, in total darkness, with men who will never be named in the dispatches. Lieutenant Commander Hayes stands at the edge of Pier 7, collar turned up against the wind coming off the North Sea. His hands are raw from 3 nights of continuous operations. The harbor master has given him until 0600 to certify the channel clear from the berthing dolphin to the landside crane pad, a straight corridor 15 feet wide, marked with red lanterns on floating buoys every 20 yards. After 0600, the tide drops below minimum clearance for the heavy freighters waiting offshore. After 0600, the trucks miss their window. After 0600, men at the front run out of ammunition. Hayes turns to the 4 divers assembled on the pier. Chief Petty Officer Brennan, 38 years old, former sponge diver from Key West, now running his 87th harbor clearance dive since D-Day. Petty Officer Larkin, 24, Boston Harbor longshoreman who learned to work in zero visibility, pulling dock pilings. Able Seaman Webb, 21, coal miner's son from Wales who understands working blind in tight spaces. And Seaman Ortega, 19, salvage yard diver from San Diego, small enough to squeeze through wreckage that would trap a larger man. Hayes spreads a chart across an equipment crate, weighing the corners with diving knives. The chart shows the pier to warehouse corridor marked in red grease pencil. Crosses indicate known obstructions, the sunken bow section, 3 collapsed piling clusters, multiple cable tangles. Question marks show possible mine locations based on aerial photos and eyewitness reports from the raid. Blue arrows show current direction. The tide is ebbing southeast at 1.3 knots. Visibility is estimated at 6 inches, maybe less with bottom disturbance. Brennan, you take the pier approach, pilings 1 through 12, Hayes says, his voice flat and technical. Larkin, center channel, marks 13 through 28. Webb, you have the warehouse approach, 29 through 42. Ortega, you're roving. Anywhere we hit delay, you go deep and work the problem. Standard procedure. Systematic sweep, left hand on lifeline, right hand searching ahead. You find cable, mark it and move on, we cut it on the second pass. You find a mine, freeze, signal up, wait for the bomb squad, tender to descend. You find wreckage blocking the corridor, assess if we can shift it with the crane or if we route around. Questions? Webb raises a hand. Sir, what about the reported sabotage swimmers? Hayes doesn't blink. Sentries on the pier with stens. Listening posts with hydrophones at both channel ends. If they pick up propulsion noise, they fire 3 flares and you ascend immediately, no exceptions. Keep your diving knives accessible. The divers nod. They've heard the stories. German Kampfschwimmer attaching limpet mines to Allied hulls, cutting dive hoses, dragging men down into the dark. Every harbor in the European theater has lost divers that way. Quick, silent, invisible. Brennan checks his Mark V helmet, running thick fingers over the brass fittings, testing each thumbscrew, each valve. The Mark V is 70 pounds of copper and brass, vulcanized rubber collar for viewport glasses, air intake and exhaust valves, communication line socket. It's obsolete technology, heavy and cumbersome but reliable. It keeps you alive at 40 feet when everything else fails. He pulls on the canvas suit, heavy rubberized fabric that will turn to lead the moment he enters the water. The corselet, bronze collar, goes over his shoulders, locked down with interrupted threads. The weighted belt, 40 pounds of lead to counter the suit's buoyancy. The boots, each 115 pounds, leaded soles to keep him upright on the bottom. 2 tenders lift the helmet, settle it onto the corselet, spin it clockwise until the threads engage and lock. Brennan feels the familiar isolation as the viewports frame his world into 4 small circles of gray light. The air hose snakes up to the surface compressor, rhythmic mechanical breath forcing air into the helmet with a sound like a distant heartbeat. He signals with his hand, 1 pump, test pressure. The tender opens the valve. Air rushes in, inflating the suit slightly. Brennan equalizes, swallows, nods. Good seal, good air, good pressure. Larkin is suiting up beside him, moving with practiced efficiency. Webb and Ortega are already in their rigs, waiting at the ladder. Hayes checks his watch. 05:42. 18 minutes. Brennan, you're down first, Hayes says. Larkin follows at 2-minute intervals. Webb at 4. Ortega holds at 6, ready for deployment. Mark every clear section with a chemical light stick attached to the bottom weights. By 0600, I want a continuous line of lights from here to the warehouse crane pad. Anything unclear, anything questionable, you mark with red. Green means go, red means stop. The convoy doesn't roll unless I see all green. Brennan clumps to the ladder, boots ringing on the steel planking. The harbor water below is black. Absolutely black, surface chopped by the wind into confused peaks that throw back the pier lights in fractured patterns. He can smell oil, rust, dead fish, cordite residue from the raid. He turns back to the water, grips the ladder rails, starts down. The cold hits him at chest level, shockingly immediate despite the suit. North Sea in March, 42 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to kill in minutes without protection, cold enough to numb fingers and fog thinking even with it. He descends 3 more rungs and pushes off backward, releasing the ladder, dropping into the water. The surface closes over his helmet. Sound changes instantly, the wind gone, replaced by the hollow echo of his own breathing, the mechanical wheeze of the air pump, the creak of the suit fabric. The 4 viewport glasses show only murk, a gray-green twilight that fades to black within arm's reach. He signals up the lifeline, 1 pull, I'm descending. Feels the answering tug. He exhales, vents air from the suit, sinks. His boots touch bottom at 28 feet. The depth gauge in his peripheral vision confirms it. He pauses, letting his eyes adjust, though there's nothing to adjust to. The visibility is worse than forecast, perhaps 4 inches, perhaps less. He can see his own hand if he holds it directly in front of the viewport, a pale smudge in the darkness. Beyond that, nothing. He will navigate this channel by feel alone. He locates the lifeline with his left hand, orients himself by the pull. The line runs from the pier ladder at a compass bearing that should take him straight down the corridor centerline. He takes 1 step forward, weighted boots sinking slightly into soft mud. His right hand sweeps ahead of him in a slow arc, fingers extended, searching for obstructions. He finds a piling, one of the pier supports, barnacle-encrusted, slimed with growth. He moves around it, keeping the lifeline taut on his left, right hand continuing to sweep. 3 steps. 4. His fingers brush something, cable, heavy wire rope, running vertically down from the pier structure, not blocking the path. He continues. The current pushes against him, steady pressure from his left side. 1.3 knots, Hayes said, but it feels stronger down here, pushing him toward the starboard edge of the channel. He compensates, angling his body, using the weighted boots to hold position. His breathing is loud in the helmet, hollow and rhythmic. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, foggy condensation on the viewports. He wipes it away with a gloved hand. 8 steps in, his right hand finds something different, a tangle of rope, heavy hemp line, possibly cargo net. He stops, works his fingers through it, tracing the extent. It's draped across the bottom, rising maybe 2 feet, extending across the width of his sweep. Could trip a man. Could foul a crane cable. He reaches to his belt, finds a chemical light stick, bends it until it cracks and glows pale green. He ties it to the obstruction with a short lanyard, marks the position. First marker down. He signals up the lifeline, 2 pulls, obstruction marked. The answering tug comes back immediately. He moves forward, following the lifeline, right hand searching. The water is absolutely opaque now, not even the vague glow of surface light penetrating this deep. He's working by touch alone, by the feel of current, by the tension in the lifeline that tells him he's holding course. His fingers find another piling, then another. The pier structure extends out into the harbor like a skeleton, massive timber supports sunk deep into the bottom, cross-braced with iron. He navigates between them, feeling his way, counting pilings to maintain position awareness. 15 feet from the pier, his hand finds something that makes him freeze instantly. A smooth, curved surface. Cold metal. Too regular to be wreckage. He probes carefully, fingers barely touching, moving with surgical delicacy. The curve is maybe 18 inches in diameter. There's a flange, a seam, what feels like a release mechanism. His heart rate spikes. He signals up the lifeline. 3 pulls, mine located. He holds absolutely still, breathing shallow, waiting. The response comes after what feels like an hour, but is probably 40 seconds. For tugs on the line, hold position, tender descending. Brennan waits, one hand still resting lightly on the smooth metal surface, maintaining position reference. He can hear his own pulse now, loud in his ears, competing with the mechanical wheeze of the air supply. A mine. Contact mine, magnetic mine, possibly pressure mine. Could be live, could be dead, could be booby-trapped. The German mine service had developed triggers that detonated when a diver touched them, pressure pads, magnetic sensors, even chemical switches that detected the electrical field of a human body. He waits. Time stretches. He becomes aware of small details, the way the current pushes against his left side, the cold creeping through the suit where it fits less tightly, the ache in his right arm from holding it extended. He focuses on breathing, on not moving, on being absolutely still in the cold darkness. A hand touches his shoulder. The bomb disposal tender, Petty Officer Kowalski, descends alongside him on a separate line. Kowalski carries a canvas tool bag and small battery lantern. He signals with hand taps on Brennan's helmet. 2 taps, move back slowly. Brennan shifts his weight, steps backward carefully, maintaining contact with Kowalski's arm so they don't lose each other in the murk. Kowalski moves forward, sets the lantern down, adjusts it. A dim cone of yellow light appears, revealing the mine for the first time. It's a Regal mine, German anti-personnel, pressure-triggered. The cylindrical casing is dull gray, streaked with rust and marine growth. The detonator housing is visible at the top, a smaller cylinder with what looks like a pressure plate. Kowalski examines it carefully, touches nothing, then signals for taps, safe to mark and bypass. He removes a white chemical light from his bag, cracks it, ties it to a weight next to the mine. White means identified hazard, do not disturb, route around. He measures a line from the mine to the lifeline. The mine is 6 feet off the corridor center line, well outside the marked channel. Not a threat to the convoy, route if everyone stays inside the lit markers. Kowalski signals Brennan, 1 tap, continue mission. The bomb tender ascends, taking his light with him. Darkness returns instantly, total and absolute. Brennan locates his lifeline again, orients, continues forward. He marks the position in his mind, piling 14, 6 feet to port, 1 Regal mine, marked white. The information goes into the mental map he's building of this underwater landscape. He continues the sweep, step by step, hand over hand along the lifeline. Every few feet, he drops another green marker, building a trail of light on the bottom that will guide the surface crew. Behind him, Larkin has descended and is working the next section. Webb is in the water now too, covering the warehouse approach. The pattern of chemical lights is growing, a glowing path through the darkness visible from the surface as pale green fireflies in the black water. 20 feet from the pier, Brennan's hand finds the wreckage. It's the bow section of the merchant ship, a massive presence in the darkness, steel plates twisted and buckled, rising maybe 12 feet off the bottom. He probes it carefully, working around the edges, searching for a clear path. The wreckage is extensive, spreading across the channel like a fallen tree. He signals up, 2 long pulls, major obstruction. Moves along the wreck face, searching for a gap. His right hand finds an opening, a collapsed section where the hull plates have folded inward, creating a passage maybe 4 feet wide, 3 feet high. He probes inside, feels the edges. Sharp metal, jagged tears in the plate, but navigable. He marks both sides of the gap with green lights, then carefully squeezes through, feeling the torn steel scrape against his suit. The passage is tight, claustrophobic even by the standards of diving blind. He moves slowly, 1 inch at a time, arms extended ahead, boots finding purchase on uneven bottom. Inside the wreckage, the current is different, eddying, swirling, confused. He loses orientation for a moment, has to pause, locate the lifeline, re-establish direction. The lifeline runs through the gap, his link to the surface, his only reference point in this absolute darkness. He follows it, hand over hand, until his boots find clear bottom again on the far side of the wreck. He's through. He marks the exit with another green light, signals up, one pull, clear passage. The map in his head expands, wreckage at mark 22. Passage through center right, marked both sides, navigable for foot traffic, but not for heavy equipment. He continues forward. The bottom changes character, softer mud, more organic debris. His hand finds cable again, this time running horizontally across the channel, maybe 8 inches off the bottom. He follows it left, then right, tracing the extent. It's approximately 40 feet long, stretched tight between 2 piling bases. This is a hazard, could catch boots, could foul crane cables, needs to be removed. He marks both ends with red lights, signals up, 2 pulls, cable hazard, requires cutting crew. The acknowledgement comes back immediately. By 05:58, Brennan has completed his section. 36 pilings checked, 2 mines marked and bypassed, 1 wreckage passage certified, 3 cable hazards identified, 18 green markers laid in a straight line, showing clear path. He ascends slowly, venting air from a suit in controlled releases, watching the depth gauge, avoiding the bends. The surface appears above him as a lighter shade of black, then gray, then suddenly he breaks through into air and noise and activity. Tenders grab him, haul him to the ladder, help him up. Hayes is there, checking his watch. Report. Brennan spits out water, catches his breath. Pier section clear. Passage through the wreck at mark 22. 3 cables need cutting. 2 mines bypassed with white markers. Green line is good. Hayes nods, already moving to Larkin, who's surfacing 15 yards away. The pattern repeats, quick debrief, immediate tactical adjustment. Webb surfaces, reports warehouse approach mostly clear but silted, needs marker lights reinforced. Ortega is deployed to the cable cutting team, descending with hydraulic shears and safety lines. 0600 arrives. The chemical lights on the bottom form a glowing path from pier to warehouse, green interrupted by occasional red or white. Hayes studies the pattern from the pier edge, comparing it to his chart. The path is clear, narrow, serpentine in places but clear. He signals to the crane operators, the warehouse supervisor, the convoy dispatcher. The cranes swing into position, cables descending, cargo nets rising from the ships, holds. The trucks start their engines, black smoke puffing in the cold air. The first Bedford rolls forward, tires crunching on gravel, headlights cutting the pre-dawn darkness. It pulls alongside the crane pad where a cargo pallet loaded with ammunition crates is already swinging into position. The driver sets the brake, climbs down, supervises the loading. 2 minutes. The crane operator works with mechanical precision, lowering the pallet onto the truck bed, crew lashing it down with straps and chains. 3 minutes. The driver climbs back into the cab, releases the brake, rolls forward. The truck follows the shore road toward the warehouse gates, following the route that runs directly above the cleared underwater corridor. Truck 2. Truck 3. The pattern repeats, perfect choreography, 15 trucks loading in sequence, every movement economical and precise. Below the surface, the chemical lights glow steadily, marking the path that makes all of this possible. The divers have created order from chaos, safety from hazard, a straight line through obstacles that could have delayed this convoy for days. By 0620, the last truck rolls through the warehouse gates, carrying medical supplies bound for field hospitals in the combat zone. The convoy forms up on the coast road, 16 vehicles in close formation, and disappears into the morning mist. Hayes watches them go, then turns back to his divers. Brennan is still in his suit, sitting on an equipment crate, helmet off, face gray with fatigue. Larkin is smoking a cigarette, hands shaking slightly from cold and adrenaline. Webb is already checking his gear for the next dive. Ortega is still underwater, finishing the cable cuts so the channel will be clear for tonight's operations. There will be no mention of this dive in the operational reports. No medals, no commendations, no newspaper articles. The convoy will reach the front on schedule, and the quartermaster will check off the manifest, and that will be the end of it. No one will know that the schedule held because 4 men spent 30 minutes working blind in 42-degree water, navigating by touch through mine fields and wreckage, marking a path in darkness so that trucks could roll in daylight. This is the hidden machinery of war, not the infantry assaults or the bomber raids or the naval engagements that make the headlines, but the thousands of small, technical, invisible operations that keep everything moving. The divers who clear harbors, the engineers who repair bridges, the mechanics who service trucks in the middle of the night, the signalmen who string communication wire across cratered landscapes. The war runs on their labor, succeeds or fails based on their precision, but their names appear nowhere in the histories. Brennan stands, joint stiff, and begins the process of removing his gear. The corselet comes off first, lifted by two tenders, then the weighted belt, the boots. The canvas suit peels away, leaving him standing in soaked wool underclothes, steam rising from his body in the cold air. He's been underwater for 43 minutes. His hands are wrinkled and white, his feet numb, his core temperature dropped to the edge of hypothermia. A medical corpsman wraps him in blankets, hands him a cup of coffee laced with rum. He drinks it in 3 swallows, feeling the heat spread through his chest. Next tide cycle is 1700 hours, Hayes says, consulting the chart table. We need to extend the channel another 30 yards to reach the secondary loading dock. Intelligence reports possible enemy activity after dark, so we'll have doubled sentries and underwater listening posts. Brennan, you're off rotation until tomorrow. Larkin, Webb, you're on the 1700 dive. I'll have fresh crew in from Portsmouth by then. The divers nod. This is the rhythm of harbor clearance operations. Dive, surface, rest, dive again. 4-hour cycles determined by the tides, continuing day and night until every pier, every berth, every approach channel is certified clear. They've been doing this for 11 weeks straight, working their way up the coast as the Allied advance pushes north. Every harbor is the same. Mines, wreckage, cables, destroyers lurking in the murk, waiting to kill. And every harbor must be cleared because the supplies must flow, the trucks must roll, the war must continue. At 1700 hours, Larkin and Webb descend again. The tide is flooding now, current running northwest at 1.8 knots, visibility slightly better with the cleaner ocean water pushing in. They work the extension, marking out the additional 30 yards to the secondary dock. Webb finds another mine, signals up, waits for the bomb squad. Larkin locates a submerged crane that collapsed during the raid, massive wreckage blocking the channel. They spend 2 hours with acetylene torches cutting the structure apart underwater, working by feel, the torches creating brief flares of light in the darkness before the water quenches them. By 1900 hours, the extension is marked and clear. That night, as predicted, the harbor comes under artillery fire from German positions 12 miles inland. The shells walk across the water in towering plumes, searching for the anchored freighters. The divers shelter under the pier, listening to the impacts, feeling the concussion waves through the water. One shell hits Pier 8, collapsing a section of deck, sending debris cascading into the harbor. When the barrage ends, they go back down to check for new obstructions in the cleared channels. They find 3 new cable tangles, 1 fresh crater, a piling torn loose from its foundation. They mark everything, remark the safe passages, work through the night until the channels are certified clear again. This pattern continues for another week. Dive, clear, mark. Artillery, bombing, sabotage attempts. Redive, re-clear, remark. The channels extend, the trucks roll, the supplies flow forward. Brennan makes 42 dives in 7 days, spending more time underwater than on the surface. His hands develop permanent tremors from the cold, his ears ring constantly from pressure changes, his joints ache from the weight and the work. But the channels stay clear. On the 8th day, the front advances beyond the range of enemy artillery. The harbor falls silent. The divers work their last rotation, extending the cleared channels to the fuel depot docks so tanker trucks can load directly from the ships. By sunset, every pier, every berth, every approach is marked with chemical lights showing safe passage. The harbor is open for full operations. Hayes calls the diving team together on the pier for the final debrief. Effective 0800 tomorrow, this facility transfers to Port Operations Command. Our unit redeploys to Ostend, Belgium. The next harbor needs clearing. The divers pack their gear in silence. Mark V helmets wrapped in canvas, air hoses coiled, weights stacked, suits folded and stored. Everything methodical, everything precise. These tools kept them alive through 217 dives, through mines and wrecks and darkness and cold. They treat them with respect. At 0600 the next morning, a convoy of trucks rolls into the harbor district, ready to load. They follow the shore road to the warehouse, turn at the loading docks, back up to the crane pads. The drivers never notice the faint green glow in the water below, the chemical markers still visible on the bottom, marking the path that was cleared for them. They load their cargo, ammunition, medical supplies, rations, fuel, and roll north toward the front lines, keeping to their schedules, maintaining the flow of war. The divers are already gone, heading up the coast to the next harbor, the next set of channels that need clearing, the next underwater battlefield where the war is fought in darkness and silence. Their names are not recorded in the operational histories. Chief Petty Officer Brennan will never receive the commendation his commanding officer writes, because the commendation is classified and filed away in an archive that won't be opened for 30 years. Petty Officer Larkin will die 6 weeks later in Ostend, killed not by a mine or enemy fire, but by equipment failure, a faulty air valve that floods his helmet at 60 feet. Able Seaman Webb will survive the war and return to Wales, where he'll work as a commercial diver until his lungs give out in 1953, scarred by decades of breathing compressed air. Seaman Ortega will transfer to the Pacific Theater and participate in the pre-invasion clearance operations at Okinawa, where he'll lose 3 fingers to a booby-trapped wreck, ending his diving career. But in this moment, in this harbor, on this morning in March, they succeeded. They cleared the path. The trucks rolled on schedule. The supplies reached the front. The war continued. From pier to warehouse, through darkness and cold, through mines and wreckage, they did the invisible work that made the visible victory possible. They felt their way forward with bare hands, marking the path for others, building order from chaos one chemical light at a time. And when the job was done, they moved on to the next harbor, the next impossible task, carrying nothing with them but their gear and their skill, and their absolute professional dedication to the work. This is what happened in 1,000 harbors across 2 oceans during 6 years of war. This is the story that never made the newsreels, the achievement that earned no headlines, the sacrifice that appears in no monuments. Men worked underwater in conditions that should have killed them, clearing paths so that other men could do their jobs, so that the machinery of war could function, so that the larger strategy could unfold. The chemical lights on the harbor bottom will glow for another 3 days before their chemicals are exhausted. Then they'll go dark, and the path they mark will exist only in memory and in the classified operational charts locked in naval archives. But the work was real. The danger was real. The skill and courage and dedication were real. And because of that work, because of those men, the trucks rolled on time. If this story opened your eyes to the invisible warriors who kept the machinery of war running, hit that subscribe button now. We bring you the untold stories of World War II, the technical operations, the specialist units, the anonymous professionals who won the war in ways you never learned about in school. More stories like this are waiting. Subscribe and never miss them.